know that since 1960, Kenya, Africa has faced about 200 coups, and if that is not even a shocker, is that since 1960, 14 heads of state across sub-Saharan Africa has been in power over 30 years. Welcome to Conversation in Leadership. This is an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say, inawezekana. We totally believe that leaders should eat last. And we ask you that you sit back and be able to learn a few things. Today we want to learn about 7 types of leaders that Africa desperately needs. And the reason why we believe that Africa needs this type of leaders, because John Maxwell once said that everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, according to a certain research, it is actually said that there are about 200 coups and attempted takeovers since independence in Africa since 1950s. Now, and most of these coups and all takeovers last more than 7 days. Even more surprising, they happened within 1960s and 1970s. And by the way, out of all the countries in Africa, a majority of them, which account to 90% of African countries, have ever experienced a coup experience, including our own country. And one might ask, why is it that there are so many coups? Why is it that people would want to take power through the back door? Why do a military take over? And the answer actually lies on one simple thing, and that is leadership. You see, Africa has a lot of presence of long-serving dictators, or what we call presidents for life. Maybe it's one of the continents where presidents rule even in their graves. And one of the other actually says that part of the majority of the uprising is actually aimed at bringing down or actually helping these leaders to get out of power. And much as it is very important for us to be able to find solutions to this country, we believe that a coup d'etat is not the way. It is always very important as leaders to spot the challenges that Africa is facing, and then more importantly, be able to prescribe that will work without hurting, without shedding blood. And so we ask ourselves, what kind of leaders then do we need? Because the whole issue rests on having good leadership. If we survey Africa, of course, there is a lot of goodies in Africa. There is a lot of minerals. They are good livers. Africa has a lot of tourist attraction, and the climate around Africa comes from heaven. The people, the African people, are very hardworking. But why is it that still we are in the emerging economies? What is wrong? If you look at the experiment that this guy from Malawi, from Rwanda, is Paul Kagame, is actually showing us, is an example, is actually a testament that Africa, what it actually needs good leadership. And so this evening we propose 7 types of leaders that Africans desperately need. And when we talk about those kind of leaders, we want to say this, that these kind of leaders are not necessarily to occupy political space, but we propose that these leaders should occupy every sector of the society, whether you're talking about civil society, whether you're talking about the commercial sector, whether you're talking about the civil society, whether you're talking about political governance, wherever it is, any space that requires governance, then these 7 types of leaders are are actually needed. And actually the 7th one is very, very important. And so the first type of a leader that is desperately needed in Africa is what we call visionary leaders. These are leaders who actually ask, what will the future look like? And these are leaders basically that they will imagine the future today. Their mind is filled with creativity. They envision what Africa can be in the next 10, 50, 30 years. They want to imagine a nation without them. They are very much interested in creating a scenario or creating a picture, or they are very interested in making the world that they are living in far much better, even beyond their lifetime. And so they are anticipatory. They think about what is going on. They think on how to interrupt, on how to break a few rules there and here. Why? So that the world tomorrow will become a better off than it is. For them, they are actually a philosopher. They actually believe in the philosophy of eating last instead of eating fast. So they are basically committed to create an enabling environment for that change to happen, for that vision to be visualized. So they will collaborate with like-minded people. They will share the vision. Sometimes they will go even at piloting. They are very resolute in committing that which that they have promised. Visionary people are people that are a little bit rare. The language that they talk looks a little bit weird. When you talk, when they share, when we take podium and they start speaking, for some people they look like they are a little bit mad. You see, it's just like a story that is told about Bishop James Wright. Bishop James Wright is the father of Wilbur and Ovile. It is said that Bishop James Wright was with these two boys in a Methodist conference, where one of the speakers actually challenged the Methodist preachers that they should even be thinking about flying. They should be thinking about inventing birds, so that they will be able to spread the gospel to other worlds that they have not been able to capture. Now, for unknown reason, James Wright was infuriated. He was very angry. He rose up and actually told the speaker, "You are crazy. Flying is a reserve for the birds." He picked up his two boys, that is Wilbur and Ovile, and walked out from the conference. Now, within no time, around 15-20 years, his two sons, that is Wilbur and Ovile, were able to start the first aeroplane. They made the first successful flight from a bicycle garage. And the question that we ask, where was Bishop James Wright? And that is one of the reactions that actually visionaries face, because they talk about things that are not there as if that they are there. And the beautiful thing is that they move from there, from visioneering, and then they start creating systems and putting systems into place so that those ideas can be put on paper. You need to realize that anything that has been in the minds of people. Anything that you see physically was first spiritually. And so it is very, very important that as a leader that you're filled with a vision, because vision is the one that is going to help us to see where we shall be. If you can't see it, we can't have it. And so one of the biggest prayers that I always make every day is that, Lord, give me a vision. Give me a vision, because it is very important for somebody to see. No wonder Elijah prayed. Is it Elijah or Elisha? He prayed, Lord, open up his eyes. And one of the things that we need to pray for our political leaders, more especially, is that the Lord will be able to help their eyes to open, to see that the people that actually elected them are important, and that they need to serve them. So one of the traits that African leaders need, and Africa desperately needs, is what we are calling visionary leaders. Number two is what we call compassionate leaders. Compassionate leaders, these are people who genuinely care for the people and will always stand and defend the interest against the enemies. and even beyond. The beautiful thing is that these people are always available to comfort, to encourage, to empathize, especially them that are hurt. And they speak comforting words, they speak words of encouragement, especially during those hurting moments. And one of the other things, not only do they speak, but they also look for ways in which to alleviate the pain and relieve the agony the people might be going through. And one of the people that would describe, and you may not necessarily agree with us, is the fourth president, President Uhuru Kenyatta. President Uhuru Kenyatta led at a very difficult time, because he led this country during COVID era. And one of the things that he made is that during that time he was able to go and revise the taxes. The tax regime during his time went actually a little bit lower. Why? So that he can be able to caution Kenyans from suffering from the effects of COVID. Well, that was compassionate. That was something that he showed that he really cared about the people. With the lockdown that had been implemented, when the church leaders went to him and asked him to relax and to allow people, to allow churches to open under certain rules, when he was approached again, he agreed to the request, which paints him basically as a compassionate leader. A compassionate leader is somebody who feels the pain, who actually understands the pain of the people and actually communicates to alleviate that pain. Any leader who rejoices at the suffering of the people, then that is not a leader that we need in this continent. We've had some dictators and who actually rejoice when people are suffering, who make a killing when people are suffering. So Africa needs desperately leaders that are compassionate. Number 4, leaders, or number 3, we need leaders with honor. Leaders who shy away from financial scandals. Leaders who believe in integrity. One of the things that you need to realize that once a leader is elected, he automatically earns the title honorable. Now, and a honorable simply means that he should conduct himself in a honorable manner. In other words, he needs, as a honorable member, he needs to fulfill the promises that he made to the people. He needs to practice justice. He needs to be fair. He needs to be available to the people. He needs to bless the people. He needs to act with honor. He doesn't need to conduct himself in activities that are shameful. We have heard through the dailies, of course, some of the shameful things that our leaders have been. Some have even been arrested and put behind the bars thanks to shameful activities. Some have even went ahead and actually, practiced corruption. There are no roads, there are no hospitals, schools are not being put up. Things go messy. And when you look at their regime, when you look at the legacy that they have left, one of the things that you find is that it is full of shame. It is full of disappointment. It is something that you do not actually rejoice. Leaders, we are saying number 3, they need to be honorable. Okay, very, very important. And then number 4, leaders need to be exemplary leaders. In other words, when we look at them, they should portray an example that we should be able to copy. The way they conduct themselves, the way they talk, the way they dress, the way their whole lifestyle is an example that can be modeled. We've seen sometimes in the parliaments during debates where MPs have fought against each other, throwing stones and bottles of water, having insult at each other and doing all crazy manner of things. This is something that we should not be seeing. And we need to say that leaders that can be examples are very rare these days. It is very difficult to see a leader who actually exemplifies what we call servant leadership. It is very difficult for you to see a leader riding on a donkey on his way to Calvary. It's very, very difficult. It is also a little bit rare for you to hear a leader who's been accused of anything, saying, I have decided to resign. A few of us would do that. But again, for Africa to thrive, for Africa to go to the next level, then it is very, very important that leaders are able to become good examples, to become role model within the spaces that the Lord has been able to give to us. Then I believe number 5 is what we call selfless leaders. Leaders who believe in eating last. Leaders who do not, blow their own trumpet. People who mind the interest of other people. People who shy away from what we call materialistic. We're living in a culture where once somebody is appointed, once somebody is in a political office, one of the things that they do is that they grab every available land, they hoard anything that they get. They become so greedy, and it's everything about themselves. And even when they are making constitutions, even when they are making policies, they must have their whims takes the day, their selfish interest takes the day. Now we need a selfless leader who puts himself the last, who eat last, because that is the kind of a leader who is going to bring around transformation, that will be able to bring around a blessing, that will be able to bring around growth. A selfless leader. And then number 6, which is also very important, is what we are calling inspirational leader. These are leaders who breathe in encouragement. They breathe in hope, they breathe in strength, they speak hope to the hopeless people. One of the things that you need to realize is that people are looking for an inspirational leader, somebody that will be able to breathe into the people. See, somebody say that encouragement is the oxygen that every leader needs. Let's say that again. Encouragement is the oxygen that every leader needs. You cannot be able to be an encourager if you don't believe in an encouragement. During dark times, these inspirational leaders will come, they will craft a message and be able to go out there and basically encourage people to go that direction. They inspire hope, And if you look at a few leaders, if you look like our own Raila Odinga, going around the country and telling people, yes, inawezekana, or even our own again, like Peter Kenneth, when he was doing his presidential election a while ago, when he went around the country saying tunaweza make, and maybe that's a borrowed version from Obama when he was running around the country of America, his presidential candidate, and telling people, yes, we can. If you look at those messages, you will be able to realize that these messages are inspirational. And it is very important for you as a leader to be able to take time and encourage people, breathing into them, make them feel hopeful, even when things are difficult, even when things are challenging. Please step up in front of them and inspire hope. But again, you don't need to flatter them. Yes, share bad news. Inspiration does not mean that you don't share bad news. No, that is far from that. It simply means that you speak the truth, but then again tell them that we believe that you're going to make it. This is the style that actually William Wilberforce used when he was as a prime minister in England. It is very important that you make people believe in themselves. When people have a belief that they can make it, when you inflate people's confidence, when you raise people's up, then they become encouraged. Actually, it says that confidence helps us to conquer 25% of the fear. That when you have confidence, you have already conquered 25% of the project. And so you cannot underestimate quarter of a project. That is a huge thing when it is missing. And so these leaders need to go around this country, this continent, inspiring people. Africa does not only need selfless leaders, but again it also needs what we are calling accountable leaders. Accountable leaders is that they are willing and ready to be asked questions. They can account, on how they have used their power, on how they have used resources. They are willing to be asked those questions and be able to answer without getting offended. One of the biggest challenges that we are having within Africa is when readers are asked questions, the questioner is actually either killed or actually punished, or actually, his name is actually tainted, that he's not even given a chance to come back again and lead. Accountability simply means that you intentionally seek for feedback, that you're even willing to hear bad news, that even when you are told that the king is naked, you don't take that as an offense. You go out there and actually clothe yourself, because you've surrounded yourself not with the sycophants, people who tell you things are good, but again, you've surrounded yourself with good people. And again, not only do they go to that level, but again, they even go a step further. They also ask those that they are reading with to be accountable, because that is very, very important. Africa needs this breed of leaders that are accountable, leaders that inspire hope. We are saying, leaders who are good examples. We are saying exemplary leaders. Leaders, we are saying, who leads with honor, leaders that are compassionate. We are talking about leaders that are visionary, because if we don't have this crop of leaders, then Africa is still going to continue reading within the realm of without world. And you might be asking, John, where can we get these type of leaders? Who can be able to raise these kind of leaders? And the answer is fast and quick and very simple: the church. The only institution that we believe has the capacity of reproducing these type of leaders who are visionary, who are empathetic, leaders who are selfless, leaders who are we are saying confident. We are talking about leaders who are compassionate, who lead with honor, leaders who are accountable, leaders who are inspirational. It's only the church. Because if you look at all these traits, pick for example accountability. That's a biblical truth, where the Bible says that be careful of what you say, because you shall account for every careless word. That's a teaching that is taught by the church. What about visionary? Visioneering is also an aspect, is also a biblical teaching, where Elisha says, Lord, open up his eyes. God takes Abraham out there and says, if you can see it, the whole land that you see, I'll give it to you. Again, mentioning about vision. When we talk about honor, leading with honor, or becoming a good example, Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. And so the only person with thee who can be able to craft this message and pass it, the only person who is the only institution that is credible and actually commands a massive following, and there is a high level of believability, is only the church. No wonder you've seen those crafty and conman politicians, when they want to sell their agenda, they go to the church, because they know once they take the pulpit and spread their lies from the pulpit, then they are going to have a field day. They will sail through. And that's why it is very, very important for the church to commit themselves. And some of us are also people of the church. That's why it is very important for pastors to be able to teach leadership. To teach the qualities of leadership, to be able to expose to the people the qualities of a bad leadership, to be able to teach people the difference between a politician and a leader, because these two are completely different, and most people confuse a politician from a leader. The pastor needs to be able to identify the marks of dictators, the harm of electing a dictator. This needs to come from a pastor. And you might be telling me, John, but I thought I should preach to the people about coming of Jesus Christ and going to heaven and giving their lives to Jesus Christ. Yes, that's true. But again, Jesus has not yet come. So before he comes, we need to have good governance. Before he comes, we need good roads. Before he comes, we need electricity. Before he comes, we need to make money. Because how else are we going to spread the gospel? If we don't speak about peace and forgiveness and honoring one another and chide those politicians who are trading in insults and actually tell people that if a leader believes in insult, if a leader is not a good example, he should not be elected. That is not inciting. You're simply teaching, you're simply executing your mandate. This is Marketplace Media, and this is Conversation in Leadership. This particular program is powered and sponsored by Freshworld Computers. Are you looking for a computer? Please talk to them on 0722 399 091. There is a special offer of a Lenovo ThinkPad T470S Core i5, that is a speed with a RAM of 8 GB and a storage of 256 SSD, and the price is just there, 24,000. Please call them. We need to stop these coups in Africa. Because the question that we are asking, who is next? Remember this, that everything rises and falls in Africa. Africa requires leaders that are visionary, leaders that are rich with honor, leaders that are inspirational, leaders who are accountable, who ask for feedback. Africa needs those type of leaders, and those leaders are needed today, not tomorrow. This is Marketplace Media, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say inawezekana. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, when we keep the discussion, my name is John Kimani. Remember what you say here, inawezekana.